But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Karl now. And again, Karl's joining us from Iceland and we'll be talking about his work.
Okay, guys, can you all hear me all right? See some nodding heads. Full disclaimer, I've not actually used Zoom before. I've somehow managed to go the whole pandemic without using it. So just tell me if I'm doing anything weird. I guess first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name's Karl, as Stuart said. I'm in Iceland. I'm a whale watching guide, first and foremost. I work for a company called Laki Tours, and like Stuart said, I have just come in the door now. I've been on sea all day. We've had an absolutely great day, 4 different species. Yeah, let me show you, first of all. Oh, I can't. Host is disabled, participant screen sharing. Stuart, can you take a look at that for me?
We just made you a host.
Thank you, Laura. Right, okay, let me show you. First of all, let's go to, where are we? I'm going to share this one. There we go. So before we come to that, there we go. There's Iceland. Hopefully you can see Iceland there. This is the country that I'm currently calling home. So if we go over here in the west, this is a lovely area we call the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. I live just here, if you can see my arrow. This is a lovely little town called Grundarfjörður, and that's where I'm staying. Our whale watching tours leave from around here in a town called Ólafsvík, and we head out into this big old fjord here. This is called Breiðafjörður. Breiðafjörður is home to lots and lots of different wildlife, including lots of different species of cetacean, that's the whales and the dolphins. By the very fact that you're here, I am going to assume a sort of basic understanding of whales and dolphins. I'm not going to go too much into the individual species, but more the work that I've been doing with them. I hope that's okay. If there is anything that I've perhaps missed or that you would like clarified, either pop it in the chat or we can talk about it afterwards. I'll do, I think Stuart said we were going to do some time for Q&A at the end. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of where we're operating. As I said, we've got lots of different species. If I just rattle them off quickly, we do see killer whales, sperm whales, minke whales, white-beaked dolphins. What have I missed? Humpback whales, of course. Harbour porpoise, Laura will like that. And yeah, and others too. Sometimes we get really strange visitors. We get sometimes fin whales, sei whales, blue whales. So it's a really mixed vibe. The really one that I'm interested in at the moment is the sperm whales, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. First, I should probably mention that I have been working with a group called Orca Guardians Iceland. So Orca Guardians are a non-profit charity that are researching killer whales, especially. The name should be a giveaway. The main aim of the project is photo ID. So what we do is we go out and we look for the killer whales. To spot a killer whale is actually fairly easy. The males can have a dorsal fin that's nearly 2 meters tall, and it's very black. It's often super cloudy in Iceland as well. It's not the sunniest country in the world, and that's reflected on the sea's surface. So we often have a very white sea. Anything big and black sticking out of that shows up really well. So we probably see more killer whales than anyone else in Iceland. We're out daily. We're seeing killer whales regularly from February till about June. So we took it on ourselves to start photographing every killer whale that comes through. You may or may not know, but the dorsal fin, the fin on the back of the killer whale, and the gray saddle patch that you get behind that fin works basically like a fingerprint. They're all absolutely unique. Let me show you our catalog. Where did I put that? I think it was on the same window as Google Earth. Let me try that. There we go. Okay, so this is an old version of the catalog. This is from 2017. In here are about 300 individuals. So you can see you've got the left-hand side and the right-hand side of each killer whale. The idea is that then when we see them again, we can recognize them, we can check on the condition of the animal, and we can also send these pictures all around the world and see if these whales are turning up anywhere else. At first glance, these are probably going to look very, very similar. That's because they are. It's a bit of a knack to spotting what you'd be looking for to separate them apart. The first and most obvious thing, I suppose, is the difference between males and females. If we look at this one here, this is Bulletproof. He's a male, and you can see that this is a big, tall dorsal fin. As I said just a moment ago, the dorsal fin of the male can be nearly 2 meters, so that'll give you an idea of the size here. The females and the young ones, let's take a look at Claw here. She's got a much more kind of dolphin-shaped fin, so that's a giveaway of the gender. So that's kind of the first thing. The next thing we're looking for is markings. This can be either in the saddle patch or the fin. Looking back at Bulletproof here, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little notch there. I don't know if can you guys see my arrow? Yeah, cool, thank you. So the arrow here, just kind of hovering around this notch, we'd definitely be looking for that. That would give us an indication that this was SN12 or Bulletproof. We've given them these codes. It's just easier to put in paperwork and things. If they're one that we see fairly often, or they're quite conspicuous, you know, very easily recognized, they do get a name. This one is, like I said, Bulletproof. So he's got this notch here. Some of them are much harder. So if there's not an obvious notch, we'd look at the saddle patch, this gray bit for scratches, things like that, any kind of discoloration. That gets difficult too because it changes over time. Killer whales like to kind of scratch each other sometimes. These rake marks here are likely from other killer whales just giving each other a nice little scratch. Looks painful, not sure if it is, but they get lots of that. And so there we go. So this is our catalogue of 2017. As I mentioned, there's probably about 300 in here. But we've got many, many more now. This is probably our most famous here. This is Captain Hook. Captain Hook is like a late summer visitor. But anyway, yeah, the new catalogue, the 2021. Wow, time flies. That's going to be coming out sometime in autumn. We're just trying to push past the 1,000 now. Once we're at 1,000, we're going to release. That's the aim. That's the benchmark. And that's going to be a big catalogue. So that kind of gives you an idea of how many killer whales we get coming through this area. I'm certainly not saying there's 1,000 here all at the same time. That would be just killer whale soup. It would be unbelievable. They come and they go, which is kind of another reason that we wanted to start this catalogue. By doing this and sending the pictures around the world, we can see if they turn up anywhere else. We've made some pretty interesting discoveries through that. The first one is actually that a lot of our whales are migratory. So far, we've got 40 that are traveling between Iceland and Scotland. That's pretty interesting. That doesn't happen very often. You don't get too many migratory killer whales. The really interesting thing is that actually they're prey switching as well. Killer whales are notoriously picky eaters. The population in the North Atlantic, usually when we say that, we refer to the ones about Iceland and Norway, are herring feeding, herring being the small schooling fish. Typically, an Icelandic killer whale will do this, let me come back. They'll do what's called carousel feeding. What that means is that they'll swim around a group of fish, and they'll sort of take in turns to flash the white of their stomach towards the fish. The fish will then swim the other way, where there'll be another killer whale that'll do the same, and they ball the fish up really nice and tight. typically then what would happen is that the whales would either just strike and get mouths full of fish, or they'll slap their tails through that ball and try and stun as many fish as possible. In Iceland, something quite strange happens, and they do something that's not been recorded anywhere else in the world, and they hum at the fish, which is really weird. It's actually a sound that's much lower pitched than any sounds that killer whales were thought to be able to make. And what they're doing is they are just perfected this art of humming at the fish so that it vibrates the swim bladder of the fish. The swim bladder is like an air sac in the fish. They'll fill it with gas, and that will make them rise, or they'll release it all out and then they sink. This is why you don't really see a fish swimming up or down. They usually just kind of go like this. They're using their swim bladder. So if you imagine you're a fish and you're swimming along and then you're trying to go up, but your swim bladder is vibrating, that makes it really, really difficult. But that's only ever been recorded in Iceland. So it's possible they're doing it in other areas of the North Atlantic, but we're quite proud of that. That's quite cool. But anyway, back to the Scotland and Iceland migration. The cool thing is that the orcas that started migrating to Scotland are switching to eating seals when they're there. And that's really weird. That doesn't really happen very much. Killer whales are super picky eaters. In the Antarctic, you've probably seen the videos of them like swimming up to an iceberg to knock the seals off of the iceberg. The thing that they always do before they make that wave to knock the seal off the iceberg is they spy hop. They pop their heads up and they have a look at what species of seal that is. If it's not a Weddell seal, they're not interested. They're that picky. It could be some other delicious fatty seal, but they don't want to know because it's not what they eat. They're very cultural animals, and what they do is what they do. They're very conservative. So it's super weird then that they go to Scotland and they start eating the seals. And we've learned that just from our photo ID catalogue. So it's very cool. Recently, actually, we did see one of our females who doesn't go to Scotland, as far as we know. Let me just try and find her in the catalogue a second. She's called Sakara, and she's got a very distinctive fin. Let me just flick through here real quick and see if I can find her. She's got this beautiful square notch. But anyway, she turned up in a fjord to the south of where we are, where we don't normally see killer whales. It's ironically called Hvalfjordur, which means whale fjord, but it's actually named for the whaling stations rather than the appearance of whales. That was where all the whaling in Iceland used to happen, where the station was anyway. The actual whaling was much further out. But she turned up there, and she was with one of the whales that goes to Scotland. God, you can see how many whales we've got now. I'm struggling to find Sakara. But yeah, she turned up there with one of the Scottish orcas, and they were hunting seals. So unless Sakara goes to Scotland, which we don't think she does, then it seems like this behavior is actually spreading through the Icelandic population. I'm going to give up on Sakara in a second. She is in here somewhere. But either way, yes, Sakara was then hunting seals. So that's really quite profound. And yeah, we found this all out just by taking these pictures. As you can see, it's quite a lot of work. My colleague Marie has spent, years on this. She takes about 40,000 photos every year to document the movements and to see if there's new ones in the area. One of the other really cool things that came from this, if you are whale nerds like me, you might have found it pretty interesting that killer whales were seen off of Italy last year. That's a really weird thing, and we caught onto that straight away. We wanted to see, in long shot, whether it was one of ours, and it was actually, it was one of our population. It was a group including quite a distinctive male called Riptide. And that's the longest journey that any killer whale has ever been known to do. So the fishermen that were there in Italy managed to get pictures, and yeah, we could confirm that these are our killer whales, and they've just decided to make this enormous journey, which is super weird. And they actually went even further into the Mediterranean. They went all the way to the end, to Lebanon. Unfortunately, by this point, the whales were looking a bit worse for wear. Some of them were missing, and the remaining ones were very skinny. One of them turned up on a beach. We assume it was so destroyed by local people. Unfortunately, it was very, very difficult to identify it. So we can't confirm that, but we haven't seen them since, and we're not expecting them to. But again, this has all come from just an ID catalogue. Over the last couple of years, it's been quite difficult, because what we do is we go out on these tourist trips to photograph the whales, and obviously, I don't know if you noticed, but tourism was down a little bit over the last couple of years, especially here in Iceland. I mean, we locked down quite early on. We did reopen, but then by that point, a lot of the other countries had locked down. So that we didn't really have many tourists. So we were relying on donations and our adoption program, which I'll mention a little bit more about later, to go out. We were actually chartering the tourist boat for ourselves. So it was only 4 or 5 of us on board, and we'd go out for entire days at a time. And then we actually came up with the idea of live streaming them, which was really cool. So for a small amount of money, you could join us on the trip, and we'd talk you through what we were seeing and take questions and all the rest. Unfortunately, the killer whale season is basically over now. We haven't seen them for about 5 days. So we probably won't be doing any more, but I did get a couple of the trailers together to show you. So I'll show you those now. That'll give you an idea of the kind of thing we were seeing. Let me see if I can do this. Stuart, you said something about optimizing. Oh, there it is, optimized for video clip. Here we go. So there's a couple of trailers here. Oh, hang on, to share computer audio. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have audio because my computer's not happy about it. Music, so it doesn't matter too much. You'll get the same idea.
Successful trip.
I've got another one to show you as well. This is from the second trip.
We started to see fins and blows on the horizon.
And with me to talk about one of Iceland's more iconic bird species is George.
Hello, everyone.
So once again, a really nice time on the water today.
So there we go. So that's the kind of thing that we were doing. I've just noticed I'm actually running about halfway through my time already. So I'm going to quickly jump on to my next topic now, which is my project going forwards. One thing that is really, really interesting, aside from the killer whales, of course, they're amazing animals. We get sperm whales here, and it's really, really odd because we don't have the deepest water in our fjord. It's only about 300 meters at its deepest. Sperm whales like much, much deeper water. They like water that is 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers deep. So it's really odd that they're there. The other odd thing is it's all males. which means that they're coming from somewhere. I mean, I don't have to explain to you that having all males is not a viable breeding population. So they're coming from somewhere and they're going somewhere. We have them for about the same time that the killer whales are here. But there's no food for them here either, no traditional food anyway. Sperm whales eat squid and giant squid. So it's a bit of a mystery. There's no squid or giant squid here. So we're trying to figure out the next project now, for me especially, this is going to be my baby, is to figure out what these sperm whales are doing. So I've got a bit of a project. I started my own ID catalog. I've got some pictures here to show you how we ID those. So we're looking at the tail rather than the dorsal fin. You can see this is a real mess. There's a lot of raggedy bits here and there. You got little notches and everything. So they're all very, very different. This one especially, this is one of my favorites. Yeah, so it's got these white markings everywhere. Really easy to identify. Others not so much. But yeah, you can see that they're all very different. This is how we tell them apart. So the same kind of thing I'm going to be doing with the sperm whales. I have found a way to do this a little bit easier than we have been doing with the killer whales. Marie, the colleague I mentioned from Orca Guardians, meticulously goes through all her photos one by one. There's actually a more efficient way to do it with sperm whales. Let me just get back onto to this window and I'll show you. So there's a program that is like a citizen science thing. It's called Flukebook, and here it is here. So this is the fin of the whale that I just showed you in that preview window there. But Flukebook, if you upload a picture, it's automatically going to detect the shape of that tail, and you can run 2 algorithms that will match that tail with others for whatever region that you want to check. So if I go onto here, I can use this drop down here. I could search the whole Pacific Ocean. That's not much use to me, but you can do the Atlantic, North Atlantic, wherever you want. Typically, when I'm checking to see if my sperm whales are turning up anywhere else, I'm matching it with pictures from the North Atlantic. They've even put a little thing just for me on here, Breiðafjörður, which is where I see them. So yeah, really grateful for that. They've added me on there, so that's cool. It does take a really long time to do. What I wanted to do was sort of run the algorithms live for you, but we probably won't have time to do that. We wouldn't get the results in time because it has to go through a few thousand pictures. So what I will do is just bring up the results that I had before when I ran that. Oh, it's logged me out. Long story short, it just brings up a lot of other pictures, and that particular whale I was going to show you is actually brand new. So I'll be looking for a name for that one. If anyone has any suggestions, then let me know. But I've teamed up with a group in the Azores, and we've matched two of our whales with the Azores. So we know at least 2 of our whales are going to and from the Azores every year, which is great. That's fantastic news. That's given us a really good place to start. There's also a very similar population in Norway of just males, and they're feeding on giant squid there. So it might be that Iceland is just a stop off or something like that. So again, I've teamed up with a group in Norway. Between the 3 places, we've come up with a plan to use hydrophones to measure the growth rates of the sperm whales and get an idea of their clicks as well. So the sperm whales are echolocating. They're making these click sounds to navigate underwater, and different areas have different cadences that they click in. So that might give us a clue. The other thing that the clicks are really great for is to determine the size of the whale. It's quite complicated. I hope I have time for this. I'm just going to just share a lovely drawing I've done of a sperm whale to explain how that works. There we go. There's a sperm whale. So let's take a look at this. So the head of the sperm whale, this whole area here, let's just draw a little blob around that. This is the spermaceti organ, which is where they get their name. It's a big oil-filled sac. At the front of the head, up here, we've got, let's do some lipstick there. This is what we call the monkey lips of the whale. It's a very strange name, but essentially what happens there is these lips clack together and make the click sound. That click echoes through the head and is focused in this oily, waxy stuff in the spermaceti organ. So that really focuses the sound down and makes it really loud. And then it's going to hit the skull. And the skull is kind of here. And this is really interesting, actually, because when you see this, you sort of see the dolphin-shaped head appear, which shows you that it is actually related to dolphins and killer whales. It's just got this enormous bit on the front. So when that sperm whale clicks, that sound goes through here, and it kind of echoes along the top of the skull and out the front through an organ down here that they call the junk, which is a very strange name. But basically what that means is that we can measure how long this whale's head is just by the path, just the difference in sound. If you imagine there's a little click noise coming from here when it first makes the sound, and that's just a little sound. By the time it actually comes out the front, you've got this enormous big sound, and this is really directional, travels for well over 1 kilometer, and it's so loud. But if you listen very carefully, you can actually hear both. So the distance in time between these two clicks is directly proportional to the size of that whale's head, and actually then proportional to the rest of the whale as well. So you can work out how big the whale is just by listening to its echolocation click, which is really cool. So if you get a good one of those at the start of the sperm whale season, and you get the same whale later in the year, you can get an idea of its growth rate, which could give us an indication of what it's eating. So we know that the ones in Norway are eating lots of squid. So if we get a similar growth rate, that might give us a clue that there are more squid in Iceland than we thought. But pure speculation, we'll see what comes up. Our hydrophone is on its way from a university in Scotland, where a guy called Dr. Jonathan Gordon, who's an absolute genius, has helped us come up with this plan. By doing it in all 3 locations, we're going to learn just so much about the whales. So hopefully in a few years' time, we'll know a lot more. We've also been working on the possibility of taking genetic samples from the sperm whales. I've actually been being a bit of a nerd and learning how to build these drones for going out and collecting samples of the blow. So the sperm whale blow, let me get a nice blue color for that. The sperm whale blow comes out of the front of the nose like this. So traditionally, if you were catching the blow of a whale, you'd be kind of looking up here. And it's quite easy then with any consumer drone to go and catch a big load of snot from a whale. And from that, you can get a load of stuff about the hormones of the whale, the general health, as well as some insight as to what it's eating. But you know, and genetics as well. That's the other thing, is you can actually match a little bit about genetics. There's some question about this, about whether it'll work or not, whether the DNA strands you'll get are long enough to actually make a genuine kind of genetic picture of this whale. The Ocean Alliance, who first kind of pioneered the use of these drones to go and get samples, they're actually in the Azores now trying it out for the first time on sperm whales. So that's really cool. Like I said, the difference is the kind of the direction that the spray of the blow goes. In order to actually catch a blow with a conventional drone, you'd have to hover in front of its face for a really long time. That's probably quite disturbing. The general consensus is that actually whales and dolphins are not too bothered by drones. So, but still, I wouldn't want to hover one in its face. By building higher powered ones that can swoop in at the last minute using kind of like first person view with the goggles, they're much more nimble. You can actually go in after the blow sweep through, get what you need and leave. So rather than the whale being annoyed by it, it's just like, oh, what was that? Which is a lot better. It means we don't have to get the boat so close as well. And we don't have to do anything with biopsies as well, which are controversial. Taking like a skin sample of a whale is the best way to get genetic analysis. But it's controversial. I don't really want to start stabbing the whales just yet. If there's an alternative, I'd much rather do that. Non-invasive is the way. So that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. It's brand new, so kind of watch this space, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little bit more. I am self-funding it. That's the other thing. Hydrophones, drones, all this stuff is really expensive. If you do feel like helping out, get in touch. At some point in the future, I'd really like to start some kind of adoption program, name a sperm whale, that kind of thing. I haven't measured really the interest yet. This is brand new as of this month that all of this has come together. But you know, keep in touch. If you're interested, send me an email. Maybe I'll send out, if I think Stuart probably has a mailing list for this, maybe you can send something out with my contact details in it. But yeah, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you all, answer any questions and that kind of thing. How am I doing for time, Stuart?
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're almost there, mate. You know,
Okay.
Fantastic talk. We've just got a couple of questions.
Yeah, cool.
You've got time to answer them, and then obviously we'll ask some more at the end as well.
Yeah, how's that going to work? Are they going to be in the chat, or are people going to speak
We'll
out?
read them out to you, Karl.
Sorry?
We'll read them out to you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a little quiet, a little muffled.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
No, you're clear on this end, so maybe it's the
Cool.
connection.
Okay, go on, give it a go. I'll do my best.
So first things first, your audio worked absolutely fine on our end. We could all hear it.
Cool.
Someone said in regards to naming your sperm whale that particular fluke reminded her of a beluga. So maybe you could call it beluga.
It's a good idea. Might get confusing.
Yeah. Someone said last year some orcas were seen in the Mediterranean and they were identified by Orca Guardians, were they not? Do you know anything
That's right.
about that?
Yeah, so I did mention that. That was the group of Riptide. Yeah, we're not expecting them back, unfortunately. The last time they were seen, they were looking very, very skinny. Bit of a sad story. We've no idea why they did that. It was only through the catalogue and Marie's hard work especially that we were able to even realise that these were ours. I say ours, being possessive, the Icelandic sperm whales. That's killer whales, sorry. Long day. Yeah, so yeah, it's a real mystery. We don't know why they went there, and we're not expecting them back. Really a very sad thing to happen. I guess we'll never know either. That's the weirdest thing.
Okay, there are a couple more questions, Karl, but we're running out of time, so we'll leave
Yeah, sorry,
end.
I can talk for days. I'm gonna pass it over. I'm really looking forward to hearing what the rest of you have to say anyway. So yeah, I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Karl. That was so
get in touch.
interesting.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Karen.